Now, you might remember in July, the Supreme Court of Appeal set aside an interdict preventing police from demanding that gun owners whose licenses had expired return their firearms to the state. As I mentioned a little earlier, we are talking a lot of firepower here. Something in the region of 500,000 gun owners could be pursued, chased by police if they don't return their firearms. I want to talk to University of the Western Cape Public Law and Jurisprudence lecturer, Dr. Wendell Nortje, who's been watching that issue closely. Dr. Nortje, good afternoon to you. I think the line through to you is clear now. What was the initial intention of the interdict by the gun owners in the first place then?
Thank you very much for having me, Jeremy. So in 2016, the then Commissioner of SAPS, Gemotsa Pagalane, demanded that all gun owners who don't have a license will have to return their guns. And then in 2018, they actually then went to court and got the interim interdict at the North Gauteng High Court. And this then prevented SAPS from getting these guns back, or for the individuals who had unlicensed firearms to return these guns. And then obviously their argument is that they need these guns to protect themselves. Of course, then the state also has the argument that these guns can end up in the hands of criminals.
So what happens then if a gun owner now has an expired license, and what would their legal recourse be then?
So at the moment, the Supreme Court of Appeal on the 23rd of July actually said that they held that, or they made a decision that if you have a gun at home and this gun is not licensed, then it's an illegal firearm. You need to hand in your gun at the nearest police station. In terms of Section 24 of the Firearms Act, if you are in possession of an unlicensed firearm, it's a criminal offense. So, for example, what makes this interesting is let's say you are in the middle of the night, you want to protect yourself from an intruder. If you shoot this intruder with an unlicensed firearm, it's a criminal offense, and you can actually be then held accountable. The crime would be culpable homicide. So gun owners have to get the license. What then also happens is interesting. So when you hand in your firearm, because there's a general amnesty now, when you hand in your firearm, you will hand it to SAPS. They won't destroy it. You can apply for a new license with that old firearm. They have a right to hand that firearm back to you, of course, if you have a valid license.
We have a fairly strong lobbying system, a lobby group as far as gun owners are concerned in South Africa. Where do they stand on it, and what are they doing?
Well, yeah, they're called the Gun Owners Association of South Africa, and of course they started this whole process to fight for having the right to self-defense, to private defense. And of course, South Africa has a tremendous amount of murders every year. It's about 21,000 we heard the other day. And it is your right to protect yourself. But gun owners must also remember that to have a gun in your possession, it's a privilege in terms of the Firearms Act, and not a fundamental human right, as is the case with self-defense, which makes this a bit difficult because your most lethal option against an intruder would be to shoot that intruder with a gun. But if that gun is unlicensed, you will not have any recourse, and then you might actually be found guilty of a crime. So they want to lobby for, or their argument is that we need to protect ourselves. Many security companies have illegal, unlicensed firearms, and of course, they need to protect themselves and the community.
As you said, it's a tricky argument, one we'll follow with a great deal of interest. Dr. Wendell Nortje from the University of the Western Cape, lecturer in law and jurisprudence. Thank you very much for joining us. Monday lunchtime, we've got a bulletin of sport coming up.